Hello and welcome to WATCHPRO Originals. Another exclusive interview I have today is with Oliver Müller, who is a very well-known consultant in and around the Geneva watch circles, both for retailers and brands, and has a speed dial of chief executives that would be the envy of many, many people. And we wanted to talk to him about the situation in the Swiss watch industry, what's happening with the shows, how badly affected the industry is by the current coronavirus pandemic. But hopefully we'll find something optimistic to talk about for 2021 and how the industry will come back. So I'll bring you in, Oliver. That's a fantastic view behind you. Is that real, or is that a green screen?
That's a green screen from Lake of Geneva, nearby my house.
Very, very, very nice. Looks gorgeous. We're all jealous. You were quoted earlier this week talking about the up to a dozen watch brands that you already know have gone into administration. I mean, is that, are these companies that are trading? You know, you could be in administration and therefore take some protection and keep on trading, and therefore it would be pretty unfair to name them, or are they, you know, properly bust these companies and therefore we should know who they are?
There is only one name we talked about so far, which is Romain Jérôme.
Yeah.
And the others, I wouldn't like to name them, because the Swiss legal system is made that you enter into administration, but you can get out if you can source new funds. But let's cut the long story short. Those dozens, they won't come back, unfortunately, and there will be many more to come, unfortunately, during this year. But I don't want to give you to name them, because it will be hard enough to get out of business for them.
Sure, no, that's fair enough. I guess the equivalent in America, for example, would be Chapter 11, where you're protected from your creditors, but you are doing your best to work through it.
Exactly. You get a second chance, but let's face it, times are difficult. So if you haven't managed to get through, the main wave of those procedures will come probably in 2, 3, 4 months, because the worst months are yet to come. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And the Swiss government paid, how do you call it in English, furlough, etc.
Yes,
and they paid also interest-free credits to some companies. So that will a little bit delay, in fact, the real situation.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the same thing in other countries. There could be companies that are basically in a zombie state already, and they won't
Exactly.
they won't have the money to restart once the life support is turned off from the authorities. Has it been a fairly generous support package from the Swiss authorities, and has the reaction from the watchmaking industry been reflective of that they've been grateful for the support?
Yes, definitely. Yes, we have a very generous system where you can lay off the people and they're still being paid 80% of their salaries. And then it's up to the company to cover the remaining 20% if they want to. That's the first thing. Then they provided credit facilities for the companies in a very easy way to get the money. The banks were ordered to play their role to provide the funds that were given by the National Bank. So it's all an easygoing process. Even more important, and there I can name the companies because this is the positive thing, is that the suppliers who are working with some big names in the industry were very well treated by people like Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Rolex, who accepted to pay everything which was ready to be delivered at the beginning of the confinement. And even though they shut down their operations, they told the suppliers that they could invoice and that they would get paid immediately. Those companies, so far at least, touch wood, they haven't canceled the orders, they have maintained the orders. So they are also playing an important role in supporting the suppliers.
Okay, that's great to hear. And how much has the industry sort of inched back into life now? I mean, I've been running a number of stories about the manufacturers reopening, but there are still some dark areas. I think Richemont is not quite sure what's going on there. Swatch Group, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. The rest, I think, seem to be largely reopened, although on limited by what they can do because of the social distancing. What are you hearing?
Yes, so now I can give you very precise information. Swatch Group, in fact, never completely shut down their operations. They continued even with watch assembly and shipments all the time with very reduced staff, but they continued. On the marketing, sales, administration side, etc. They worked with different schedules of working, so they could have the people working earlier, later, etc., to have to avoid contacts between the people. Richemont, it was mainly shut down quite some time, but they are restarting. To be very transparent, it restarted mainly on May 11th, so this week. Some are restarting quite seriously their operations, and others are still at maybe 50% of normal operation level.
Mm. And what's the feeling like when you go into Geneva, into the city centre? I mean, are there people around? Are there shops open now? Are they doing any business?
The shops are open, but like anywhere in the world, everything got a lot more complicated. I mean, it's just very. One story, the Audemars Piguet boutique in Geneva. It's just a nightmare. How complicated it became. So the barrier, the apprehension to get into the boutique for a normal client is just very high, because you know there are only a certain number of people allowed to be at the same time in the boutique. You need to clean your hands, etc. So it's certainly not the most efficient way of receiving a client to sell him an expensive watch. Having said that, the e-commerce is booming, so hopefully the in-between, like ordering the watch on digital and maybe having it delivered to your doorstep, which quite a few brands did. I heard from Omega, from Tissot, but other brands also did the same. They had the watches delivered directly to the private houses of the clients. So that works well, and maybe it's an additional service provided to the clients.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more watches sold through private appointments and private meetings and meetings in the home and all this sort of thing. I think that's going to reshape retail, and people won't be quite so obsessed with paying for the most expensive piece of real estate in the future for their stores. So I think that could be a lasting change.
I think too, the main changes will be there. There will be a lot more. Everybody was always talking about changing the retail experience and what should happen in a store when you get there, etc. And in fact, very few initiatives were taken except from interactive showcases and things like this. But there will be a lot of new initiatives coming in phygital, in joining the digital experience with the physical experience, the brick and mortar. And the boutiques will be still around, but the whole process of how you receive the client, etc., will probably change, at least until we get back into a normal life, which hopefully will be the case one day, at least. It's what I wish.
Yes, exactly. Well, today we had, or yesterday, I think we got the financial results for the Watches of Switzerland group, which I think was the first major player to be reporting right up into the lockdown phase. Their year end was April the 26th, and they were on track for a great year, something like 16% up, and then lost in sales something like $15 million per week. That's just a sort of calculation based on the trajectory they were on and where they ended up. So it's not perfect science. We got some more numbers through in the UK today from a retail analyst, GfK, who was talking about brick and mortar sales in Great Britain being down 97%, and even though there was a growth of e-commerce which trimmed that sort of fall to about the mid 80%, it compensated slightly. The picture is truly horrendous.
I can only confirm with the numbers I saw from the different parts. Basically, if we take the movie back to beginning of Feb, until the first week of Feb, everything was on track. All my friends who are CEOs of quite some important brands, they were very happy. And then second week of Feb, everything just stopped from one day to the other. And first China went off, etc., etc. So no Chinese New Year, no booming sales, etc., etc. The positive signs is that finally by mid-March we had things in China restarting, but that's the important point. It's not restarting. It's not a Tesla car going from 0 to 100 miles per hour in 3 seconds. It's gradually. It's far from what it has been before COVID, but there are positive signs every week in China that the sales are restarting. We are maybe now at a -50 compared to pre-COVID. We have to be also very careful in the figures we are seeing, because of course everyone wants to send out positive signals, starting with the Chinese authorities who want to make us believe that the economy is back to normal. Maybe we are far from that. No wonders. The other positive signal that I have heard throughout the whole industry is how the whole e-commerce boomed during this period. I heard that first from the US. Now it's across Europe, etc. The sales figures on e-commerce are coming up quite strongly, but that will never compensate for all the traffic that has been lost in the brick and mortar business. That's for sure also.
Yeah. Well, it should be fairly good news for a number of brands that e-commerce is picking up, because of course Rolex can't be sold online. If you're talking about authorized dealers here, the Patek Philippe experiment I've heard from retailers didn't really move the needle very much in terms of selling their watches, and AP you can't buy online either. So it should be the challenger brands that are doing better.
That's very true. The only big brand who was not at all into e-commerce and finally agreed to move a little bit was Patek Philippe, who allowed their authorized dealers to sell e-commerce, even though Mr. Stern before had said that e-commerce was to sell jeans and milk. That were his words. Whatever. And they moved. They said we allowed this because we understand that our authorized dealers are experiencing difficult times. So, but definitely Rolex, no. Audemars Piguet, no. Um, but you know, I'm hearing from another brand which is quite important, which is the #2 Swiss brand, which is Omega. They are making excellent experiences with the e-commerce. They had already since 2 years their e-commerce website in the US, the UK, Switzerland, which was only for the NATO straps. And then all of a sudden, because this crisis came, within a few weeks, they managed to do what normally would have taken at least months or years. They open up whole Europe with e-commerce, and it with quite good results. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, no one serious can deny that the future is there.
Yeah, I think the only question is whether it'll be the manufacturers, the brands themselves, who are going to take the lion's share of that e-commerce, or whether it'll be the same retail partners that they've always worked with. And I think that's still an unanswered question.
That's it. It's unanswered because it's a very touchy question when you are a brand with a few thousand retailers around the world. And what do you tell them when, as soon as you open up the e-commerce? What are you going to tell them? That they will keep their businesses? Of course, anyone normally grounded will understand that in the long term you can be multi-channel at the same level. So there will be multi-brand retailers remaining, that's for sure. There will be showrooms, there will be a lot more monobrand boutiques, and there will be e-commerce. So the only question is how many of these existing retailers will remain in business?
Yeah.
That's the question. Or will the brands allow the retailers to have their own e-commerce? The answer for me is very simple. If they privilege their own interests, which the brands will do, they will manage that e-commerce directly. They integrate the margin, they get the data from the end customers, they know the sell-through instantly, so they know to whom they are selling what at a given time. Every day they know exactly how many watches have been sold in which country. So for me, it's out of question. And if you look at the recent development of the distribution with big brands, you look at Audemars Piguet has reduced by 3/4 the number of retailers they have. You look at a brand like Omega, which went down from more than 4,000 doors in the world to about 2,700, which is a lot less. 1,400 less retailers. That's a lot. So you can see where the evolution goes. It's very simple to understand that they will do exactly exactly the same what the car makers have been doing the last 20 years. They will reduce to and engage more with fewer people, and there will be only the A league, and then the retailers will be left with the choice of taking B brands or smaller brands and trying to work with them. That's for me. And the two exceptions to everything I've just been saying are Rolex and Patek Philippe. But for how much longer, I don't know. I'm not sure that maybe Rolex is preparing the same things. They always take a long time to execute their plans. So maybe they are working on that.
Well, also in a way, the way that Rolex is set up around the world now, with so many boutiques built in conjunction with their partners. They're virtually running their own retail anyway. They're just getting
Yes.
the added benefit of all that on the ground expertise from their retail partners, which I think is a good model.
I agree. It's a model. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a good, excellent remark. But it couldn't apply to all brands. It applies to Rolex. Rolex is the number one. It's a strong brand. It's the strongest brand equity that you can have in watches. So yes, it works. But for my personal feeling is that their retail network is way too numerous. They could still reduce to get even more qualitative retailers around the world, and I think they will work on that. I'm definitely convinced of that. But it's a good working model. Yes, I agree.
And what's been the feeling with so much production lost? You know, Rolex has been closed for 2 months. Many other, even brands that haven't been closed for 2 months, they've probably lost 2 months. They will probably lose 2 months of production by just the reduced capacity they're running at. I mean, is that essentially quite a good thing because demand will be so much lower for the vast majority of brands this year, and therefore we don't want to see the grey market flooded with products?
It's a good thing for the brands. It's not such a good thing for the suppliers, but they have you have to differentiate again between the strong brands and the people working for those brands. If they can catch up with the 2 months of production delay, that will be okay. And yes, the brand should be very careful not to start the same mistakes again and again as soon as the sellout starts running again, to ship too much into the market. What I'm seeing on the secondary market, like on the Chrono 24 and all those, I see that the retail plus premiums prices paid for Rolexes and other brands are coming down a little bit, which means that the demand has been a little bit reduced, which is, given to the economic situation, a normal thing.
Yeah, I think they've probably come down by 10 to 20% for the most
Yes.
in-demand watches, but that's still
Yes.
well above retail prices at the authorized.
They are still well above. Yes, of course, because I see. We take Rolex. That's I think the one of the best examples. Rolex last year sold more or less 1 million watches. They produced more or less the same number. They could go up to easily. Hopefully, my CEO friend at Rolex is not watching this. But they could easily increase their production a lot. They won't, because rarity makes a good part of the brand equity at Rolex. But let's say in normal times, the overall demand on Rolex is about 2 million watches, and you deliver 1 million. Even when things are bad, like with the current situation, and the demand goes down by 30%, you still have an over demand compared with those 1 million. And maybe Rolex will produce this year only, let's say, 900,000 watches.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Now, obviously, this year we've pretty much had no major events, no Basel World, no Watches and Wonders. Although in Argento, I think was pretty successful, and I think LVMH were very pleased with their watch week that they did in Dubai in January. Everything's up in the air now for 2021. Geneva Watches and Wonders, the former SIHH show, has said very little other than the fact that it'll be in the early April. The Rolex contingent that left Basel will definitely be there alongside them. Basel World, we know, will no longer be called Basel World, and it won't take place in Basel. We don't know quite what their plans are to replace that, whether it will be anything at all. What are you hearing on the ground there about 2021?
It's quite a race going on, because the big brands have left Basel World. Basel World is dead, that's for sure. Basel World will never exist again. They managed to kill the goose who laid the golden eggs for decades. I don't know how they managed to do that, but they did it. And so Rolex, Patek Philippe, Chanel, Chopard, etc., decided to move to Geneva. It will be a second exhibition next to Watches and Wonders. That's a good thing. It's a good thing for Geneva. The bad thing is, what do all the others, the big ones like LVMH, we still don't know what they will do. We expect that they will do their own exhibition in Geneva, renting hotels and maybe a big boat or whatever. There are many possibilities to do that. But the main issue is, what will do the independent brands, small and bigger brands, like, let's take as an example Oris or all the small guys who used to go to Basel World. So the big question is there a will in Geneva to have something orderly, organized, with an exhibition for independent brands at the same place and at the same time as Watches and Wonders and the Rolex Patek exhibition?
And that would actually be within the same Palexpo exhibition center.
Yes.
Yeah.
The space is there. The space is there. The infrastructure is excellent. It's one of the best in the world, because you have the Geneva airport just on the, literally in front of the door. You have the highway and you have a railway station. There is a lot of square meters which can be rented out. So the space is there. The issue is more, let's put it politely, on the political side, because the ones deciding there are the Fondation de la Haute Horlogerie. They are the organizers of Watches and Wonders, and they have an agreement with Palexpo, which is the organization owning the exhibition halls, and they have a right of first refusal. So they can decide who organizes what. And so I know it's not official, but there are ongoing discussions to know if there could be somehow a joint event happening there, which would be a good thing, which could be the reunited Swiss watch industry at one place at one time. And digital will never replace the human contact. Digital will never be the 100% alternative for an exhibition like Basel World used to be. The other option I'm hearing of is that the parent organization of Basel World decided to destroy the name Basel World. So the name Basel World has disappeared, and they have filed for the Swiss Watch Week brand name. And that could be the idea of having, let's say, in Lausanne, where they have also exhibition halls, and maybe at the same time in Zurich and Basel, the gemstones, the pearls, etc., and all the other brands. And that would come up to about 150 to 200 Swiss-made watch brands, and maybe also some Japanese brands like Seiko or Citizen joining that exhibition, which could be a good thing for the watch industry overall.
Do you not think that MCH Group, which owns Basel World, do you not think that they're in conversations with FHH to locate a show within PAL Expo as well?
I'm laughing because there is something I can't tell you, but in fact, the end of Basel World was self-initiated, if I may say so.
Self-inflicted.
So you have the answer. No, it's too late. They should have done that before. They should have one day realized that maybe it was not such a good idea to try to concentrate everything in Basel and to have a competing exhibition in Geneva or vice versa. In my opinion, it's too late. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy if I'm proven wrong, but they should have talked about that years ago. They tried 3 or 4 years ago to finally align the dates and avoid, people having to travel twice a year to Switzerland.
Yeah.
But we were not smart enough.
They made that even worse by putting it at the end of April and early May, which would have been this.
I don't know. That's a vast debate about when it should happen in the year. For me, it's not so much that issue. There are people telling you that it must happen in Jan, or it must happen when I don't know when in the year. For me, that's not so much of an issue, because at the end of the day, you present the new collection, then it takes maybe 3-4 months to deliver to the markets, etc. For the big brands, because there is a quite a complicated supply chain, etc. The issue is to bring all the people at a given time, at a given place, and to really do something which is the showcase of the Swiss watch industry. And we shouldn't argue if it's better here or there or now, or it's not so much about April or Jan. It's how we do it, and in an intelligent way. We have to get together, and we have common interests. Of course, Rolex doesn't need the small brands, but at the same time, the beauty and the spice of an exhibition like Basel World were the small brands, because they were bringing a lot of new initiatives, and it was the nice Basel World off once you had done the big business with the big boys in Hall 1.
Yeah. I mean, the reality sat here today, though, is we know about the plans for about 36 brands. The 30 brands that would have been at SAHH this year, and the 6 brands that are going to go in with Rolex. So there is, we really don't know about Swatch Group. As you say, LVMH is still up in the air. All those independents, Oris, Maurice Lacroix, Meistersinger, Wolf, Watchwinders. These are companies that I know are desperate to get to Geneva, because they know that wherever Rolex goes, the cream of the world's retailers goes. And not only to Geneva, the city, the cream of the retailers are going to go to PAL Expo, and they're not even probably going to go and see the lake.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very true. That's and it will become a nightmare for any client, any retailer, any watch collector, any journalist, any blogger, if he needs to go the same day to 3 different places or 4 different places. Small guys, let's take a very good example. Akrivia, Recep Recep'i, independent, small, very nice brand, fine products, etc. He won't have a problem. He has an atelier. He will organize his own private exhibition. He will have the people visiting him. That's not the issue. The issue is with the people you named before, the Orises and all those people. What do they do? And as you said, it's where Rolex is, everybody will want to go. Where Cartier is, everybody will want to go. Swatch Group, I don't think they will ever come back to any place. I think it's their will to stay apart from all that and to organize smaller events, local, regional, local, whatever, around the world. I don't know if it's the best solution. It gets very complicated if everybody. We saw that in the recent months, before the COVID. If you have Bulgaria, and then you have Festina, and then you have C and D and E organizing their own show.
I mean, it was on and on.
It becomes a nightmare. It's not manageable for anyone. And again, as I said, a brick and mortar event happening once a year in one place, that will help the whole industry. The fashion weeks, they happen at a given time. Pitti Uomo in Firenze, or the New York, or the London, or whatever, Paris. Yeah. It needs to happen at a given time, in a given place.
Yeah, well, we're running out of time, Oliver, but before we go, we're obviously going to lose a significant percentage of turnover this year, and profit for that matter. Let's say that Swiss exports go from 21 billion Swiss francs. Let's say they drop by 25%, something like that this year. And I suspect that the sales through in retail will be something in that sort of magnitude as well. Is it your feeling, or the CEOs that you speak to, is it their feeling that there will be a rapid catch up, and therefore by, let's say, the end of 2021, we might be more or less back where we would have been?
I'll talk first about 2020. I can give you one number, which was published just this week in a Morgan Stanley report. So the estimate for the LVMH watch and jewelry division for the second quarter 2020 is at minus 65%. And for the year, we should be around minus 30. My estimate for the year for the whole watch industry is at minus 30 in value, and in volume, it will be even worse, bringing back the Swiss watch industry to the after Second World War volumes, let's say 1947. We will be below the 15 million watches sold, and the turnover will be 30% down. It will be our worst year, but let's put that in perspective with 20 years ago, 2000, we were at more or less 10 billion Swiss francs exports. This year, we might be at 14, let's say something around 14. So it's bad. It's a huge impact. It will have impact that people will be laid off. There will be probably a lot of brands going out of business. But overall, it's a catastrophe, but it's not that bad. And then 2021, hopefully things will be going back to a little bit more normal. And that is an average value. Don't get me wrong. I expect the big boys, the champions, Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek, they will be probably down by between 15 and 20%. But then there will be many, many brands at minus 40, minus 50%.
Mm. Well, let's hope that the brands do manage to find a way to really put on a show in 2021, because I think if the chaos that we've had this year, and this is chaos that predated coronavirus when it comes to the marketing plans and the exhibition and event plans, I don't think those issues are going to be resolved in time for 2021, but we can but hope. But I do think that Geneva Watches and Wonders needs to be a hugely successful event, and the brands need to work with the city, work with the organisers to make something that really makes the world sit up and take notice. And even if it is only 36 brands or 50 brands or whatever, we know they represent 80% of the, well, perhaps not 80%,
Yes.
but a very large percentage of the market. So yeah, I hope we're going to hear some really exciting plans for 2021.
You will. I can't tell you why I'm so confident, but you will.
Well, I feel the same way, and I've been speaking to some of the same people that you're speaking to. So yeah, well, hopefully we're both right.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Now I'm confident. I'm confident for the longer term, but unfortunately we have to be realistic on the short and mid-term. That's for sure.
Okay, Oliver, it's lovely to speak to you again, and enjoy your weekend. And we'll see each other in person again soon.
I hope so. Bye. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, Oliver.
Bye bye. Have a nice weekend. Bye.